What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing a Marincess deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Mimi. And this deck is an extremely powerful deck now that we finally have the support out of Duels from the Deep, giving us all sorts of extremely powerful new cards like Marincess Aqua Argonaut, which is just such a powerful new boss monster. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like in your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron, along with test hands. And definitely give Mimi some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one guys, and definitely be on the lookout for test hands. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Marincess Blue Tang. Blue Tang is a great normal summon in this deck, because this card is actually a walking Foolish Burial and Pot of Duality, because it has the ability that if this card is normal or special summoned, you can send a Marincess monster from your deck to the graveyard except another copy of this card. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as the material for a link summon of a water monster, then you can excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you do, you get to add an excavated Marincess card to your hand, and also shuffle the rest back into the deck, which is a really powerful effect to get the exact combo pieces that you need to go full combo. We then play 3 copies of the new Marincess Spring Girl. This card is an insanely powerful card that has the ability that you can banish a Marincess monster from your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as a material for the link summon of a water monster, then you can send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard equal to the number of Marincess monsters that you control. Then, if a Marincess card was sent to the graveyard by this card effect, you inflict 200 points of damage to your opponent for each Marincess card sent, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just get some more cards in your graveyard. We then play 3 copies of Marincess Pescelius. Pescelius is a good 3-of that helps you get an additional monster on your side of the field with the ability that if this card is normal or special summon, then you can special summon a Marincess monster from your hand in defense position, except another copy of this card, which can help you out a lot to be able to special summon out cards like your copy of your Spring Girl or even Blue Tang to continue your combos. It also has a really good graveyard effect that during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from the grave and then target a Marincess spell or trap card in the grave and add it back to your hand, which is a pretty good effect to be able to add those cards back to your hand like your copies of Dive or Wave to be able to get more plays. We then play 3 copies of Marincess Seahorse. Seahorse is a great card, and actually with this card alone, you can actually go full combo, which you guys will see during the test hands. But this card is a really good effect that you can special summon this card from your hand to a zone a Marincess link monster points to. And you can only special summon Marincess Seahorse once per turn this way. And during your main phase, except a turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your grave to be able to special summon out a water monster from your hand to a zone Marincess link monster points to, which is a pretty good effect to be able to get this card in the graveyard with a card like your copy of Blue Tang to be able to go full combo. We then play a single copy of Marincess Mandarin. Mandarin is a really good card to be able to special summon to your side of the field, because if you control 2 or more Marincess monsters while this card's in your hand or grave, you can target a water link monster that you control and special summon this card to a zone that monster points to, but banish it when it leaves the field to just extend your plays to go in for more cards. We then play a single copy of Marincess Sleepy Maiden. Sleepy Maiden is a good 1-of in the deck, but I only feel like you need a single copy of this card because it is a level 5 in this deck, so you only need a single copy of this particular Marincess. It also has the ability you can target a Marincess card that you control and special summon this card from your hand. And if you do, it gains this effect that while this card is in the monster zone, you can the targeted card cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And you can manage this card from the graveyard to target a Marincess link monster that you control and equip it with 1 Marincess link monster from your graveyard, which is a pretty good effect to be able to get an additional card equipped to it, which is just really, really good. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom just to make sure that the opponent's not touching the deck while we're going in for full combo, and this card also comes up with a spell card that we're playing in just a minute. We're then going to be playing 2 copies of Effect Veiler, which is a really good card to stop your opponent's monster effects, 2 copies of DD Crow, which is a really good card to banish cards from your opponent's graveyard, especially against the Despia matchup, and then finally a single copy of Nibiru just in case we need to board wipe our opponent if we do get pushed to go second, because usually I like to go first in this deck so that I can establish a copy of Aqua Argonaut and a couple of copies of Wave on the field. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is just really good just to extend our plays even further in this deck to be able to go in for more Link monsters or bring back one of our Link monsters to our side of the field. We then play a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is really good to get the exact monster you need in the graveyard when you need it. One copy of Battle Ocean, which is an insanely powerful card and a must one of in this deck because it has the ability to get Marincess monsters you control gain 200 attack. Also, each one gains 600 attack for each Marincess card equipped to it, and monsters you control in the extra monster zone that were link summoned using a Marincess Crystal Heart as a material are unaffected by your opponent's card effects. And when you link summon a Marincess monster to the extra monster zone except during the damage step, then you can equip up to 3 Marincess link monsters with different names from your graveyard to that link summon monster, which is really handy, especially with your copy of Aqua Argonaut, which is just really good in this deck to be able to special summon them back from the back row off of her effect. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is really good in the deck because it has the ability that basically it's going to protect you from hand traps, so you definitely want to play a single copy of this card because we don't want to get hand trapped in this build. We're also playing 3 copies of Crossout Designator. Crossout Designator is basically like additional copies of Called by the Grave to be able to protect us from additional hand traps, so this card is a definite 3 of in this build. We're then going to be playing 3 copies of Marincess Dive. Marincess Dive is an insane new support card for this deck that has the ability that you activate one of the following effects, and for the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you can't special summon monsters except for water monsters, which is not that big of a deal because we only play about a single monster in the extra deck that's not water, and just about everything in the main deck that we're going to be summoning is actually water. But this card has the ability that you can target a non-link Marincess monster in the graveyard and special summon it, being additional copies of Monster Reborn that are actually searchable. Or you have the ability that Marincess Battle Ocean is on the field spell zone. You can special summon out a Marincess monster from your deck, which is absolutely crazy. We then play 3 copies of Cyanide Mining. Cyanide Mining is a definite 3 of this deck because it lets you send a card from your hand to the graveyard to add a level 4 or lower Cyverse monster from your deck to your hand, which all of your Marincesses are actually Cyverse, so you can search any of them that you need, which is really good. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Marincess Wave. Marincess Wave is a really good 2 of in the deck. I like playing 2 of it, which you guys will definitely see in the test hands that I drew into this card, and I wanted to search an additional copy of this card, so I like 2 copies of this card because if you draw into one in your opening hand, you still have 1 to search off of Coral Triangle, so I really like 2 copies of this card. It's a really powerful trap card that if you control a Marincess Link monster, then you can target a face-up monster that your opponent controls and negate that face-up monster's effects until the end of this turn. Then, if you control a Link 2 or higher Marincess monster, all face-up monsters you currently control are unaffected by your opponent's card effects until the end of this turn. And if you control a Link 3 or higher Marincess monster, then you can activate this card from your hand, being an additional hand trap in the deck, and also searchable off of Coral Triangle. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence to round out the hand traps for the deck, but this card is really good because it just basically negates your opponent's monster effects, and it's an overall fantastic card to set to your side of the field to also negate spells and traps in the same column, which is really awesome. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing the new awesome Marincess Aqua Argonaut. This card is a card I've been waiting on for so long for this deck, and I'm so glad to finally have it because this card is absolutely busted. This card has the ability to take any 2 water monsters, not Marincess, but just water monsters to make this card, with the ability that while this card is in the extra monster zone, your opponent's monsters cannot attack monsters except for this one, and you can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. It has the ability that you can target a water monster that you control and a card that your opponent controls and return them to the hand, and during your opponent's turn, when a spell or trap card or effect is activated on the field, quick effect, you can special summon one of your Marincess monsters equipped to this card, and if you do, negate the activation of that effect. That's a really really powerful effects, because when you summon this card with Battle Ocean on the field, you're going to get to equip 3 Marincesses to it, and for every Marincess that's equipped to it, it's going to gain 600 attack points, plus an additional 2 off the Battle Ocean, which will boost it by 2,000 attack points, putting this card at 4,300 when you summon it to your side of the field, which is really, really good. We then play just a single copy of Bubble Reef. Bubble Reef is a good one-up in the deck to help you draw cards in the deck, so I play it as a one-up just in case I can't get to the copy of Battle Ocean. We then play a single copy of Marincess Marbled Rock. Marbled Rock is a really good card because it lets us target a Marincess card in the graveyard and add it back to her hand, and you can only use each effect this card once per turn. That when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can send a Marincess monster from your hand to the graveyard, and for that battle, monsters cannot be destroyed by battle, and you don't take any battle damage, which is pretty good. We then play a single copy of Coral Triangle. This card is also a really awesome new busted card for the deck, that you can send a water monster from your hand to the graveyard to add a Marincess trap from your deck to your hand, which is always going to be Marincess Wave. And if only your opponent controls a monster, then you can manage this card from your graveyard to special summon water link monsters from your graveyard whose combined link rating equals exactly 3. And you can only use the effects of this card once per turn, and you can't special summon monsters the turn you activate either of these effects except for water, which is not that big of a deal because this card is super broken in this deck. We then play 2 copies of Coral Anemone. Coral Anemone is really good because it lets us target a water monster with 1500 or less attack in the graveyard and special summon it to a zone that this card points to, which is really good to be able to just go and climb into other link monsters. This card also is really good because if this card is sent from the field to the grave, then you can target a Marincess card in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, which helps you out with so many different plays in this deck. We then play a single copy of Crystal Heart. Crystal Heart is basically here to give our monster extra protection by using this card as a link material to go in your copy of Aqua Argonaut while using Battle Ocean on the field. We then play 2 copies of Blue Slug. Blue Slug is basically the starter of the deck that has the ability, if this card is link summoned, you can target a Marincess monster in the graveyard and add it back to your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn, except for water monsters, which is totally fine because that's all we're summoning anyways. We then play 2 copies of Marincess Sea Angel. This card searches any Marincess spell when it's link summoned, which is really good because it can search your copy of Marincess Dive or Battle Ocean directly from your deck to your hand. So this card comes in extremely handy to get the cards that you need to your hand. We then play a single copy of Splash Mage. Splash Mage is really good because you can target a Cyberse monster in your graveyard and special summon in defense position, which can help you climb into some other link monsters. We then play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code is the only non-water monster we play in the entire deck. This card is really good because it can pop 1 monster on the field because we're only going to be playing water monsters other than the Access Code, so this card comes in very handy to be able to out 1 card on the field and also make us a really big monster on the field. We then play a single copy of Bahamut Shark to be able to summon out our copy of Toad, because Toad is really, really nice if you get 2 level 4 Marincess monsters in the hand to be able to make Bahamut Shark to be able to summon out your copy of Toad, which is really nice to be able to use it with Pascalius. Normal summon Pascalius, summon out any level 4 to your side of the field off of her effect, and then make a copy of Bahamut Shark to be able to go in for all those really good plays. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's super fun to be able to play. Definitely be on the lookout for test hands from this deck, because this deck is absolutely nuts. This deck is a deck I wouldn't hesitate to carry to a locals or a regionals. This deck has all of the potential to be a really good meta deck. I love the way that it plays. It's really fun to be able to play this deck, especially with all of the new cards. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell and there soon come part of notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.